Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another roundtable with the Full Frame Kicks channel. And today is a very special day. We are talking about the elephant in the room, botters. It's going to be interesting. I'm very excited. As always, I have my amazing co-host with me today, Andy and Josh. Unfortunately, Leon is not with us today because he has other arrangements. And we also have a very special guest called Eddie on with us today. And he is part of Josh's community. So I'm going to hand over to Andy and Josh and Eddie to intro themselves. And then we come back and discuss what we are talking about today. Andy.
Well, good afternoon, good evening. Andy Wilson, the Sneakonomist. It's going to be a great episode today. I normally concentrate on the financial side of the industry, but being a sneaker fanatic, everyone wants to find out about bots, right? Aren't they the bad guy? Aren't they the ones that's stopping us from getting all of our stuff? So it's going to be good because I think it's going to be definitely some interesting conversation.
Cool. Excellent, Josh.
Sorry, went on there. Yeah, so I'm Josh, aka the Lucky Botter. I run a YouTube channel basically all about the elephant in the room, which is botting. Not only that, but myself and Eddie, who's on here now, we co-run and co-founded the Old Boys Botting Club. So we actually created a group where we teach anyone over the age of 30 how to bot, exactly the intricacies of it, and do release guidance, and not only that, but botting mentorships and botting guidance, etc. So yeah, I'm the bad reseller botter guy that's taking all your pairs.
Eddie, intro.
Yeah, I'm Eddie. So I would call myself a long-time sneaker collector as well, to first thing, to be honest. But obviously, with the introduction of bots and stuff, I've been quite heavily involved in that for a good number of years now. Yeah, that's it. Like Josh has said, projects that we've got ourselves and the Old Boys Botting Club and our own podcast in regards to botting and stuff as well.
Amazing, great. So the way I think we should go about this is Andy and myself. Why don't we tell the viewers what we thought about botting, say 6 months ago, and what we think about botting now? I suppose we probably got a slightly different take on things to some of our friends within the community, because obviously, we have, met Josh in the last few months, and we've obviously learned a lot and watched a lot and seen a lot. So we might have a little different view, but personally, let's rewind 6 months ago or a year ago. Botters were wankers.
Still am, to be fair.
No, it was until you knew about it. For me, it was like, oh my God, these botters are here. There's these resellers are here. It's killing the community. You can't get the pairs that you used to be able to get. It's very frustrating, especially someone like me. I'm mature compared to some of the guys within the community. So I remember the days 20 years ago, I could walk into a shop and pick up a pair of kicks without any hassles, sort of thing. But then, fast forward to where we are today, and putting a mature head on things and speaking to you, Josh, and watching your videos. I've kind of just, look, I don't love it, but I understand it. At the end of the day, my view on botting now is, first of all, each to their own. It's a hustle out there. You've got to grind. You've got to do what you need to do in life to get by. And I think if you do it with integrity, I don't see why it's so bad. At the end of the day, it's a business. And what I think I said to you the other day in our chat, Josh, bottom line of it is, it's gambling. So if you are a gambler and that is your history and you enjoy gambling, then botting may be for you. I hate gambling. I'm terrible with numbers. So it just will not work with me. I don't have any interest in that sort of thing. But I've got an interest now watching what you do. And just before I hand over to Andy, what's actually been interesting, I've had 2 conversations this week of 2 kind of resellers who I've actually been put in touch with from a friend of mine, and just having a couple of conversations. One of them is a much younger guy. He's about 18 years old, and he is a sneakerhead, but he has just bought the sneakers bot, which I think is quite new, if I might be right.
Probably U Sneakers or TSB, one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was £100 or something, so it didn't seem like one of the most expensive bots out there.
To be fair, most bots retail aren't expensive. So if he got it for retail for a group buy, because in the group sometimes you get the opportunity to buy for retail, even the bots that cost $20,000 on the secondary market are only $1,000 retail. It's they've got more resale than shoes. That's what's the most interesting thing about bots. But yeah,
Yeah.
probably one of those. They've been going for a while. They've been going for a long time, but it's only been recently where they've actually been working for the UK. But yeah.
Okay, great. So he was saying he's got this bot and he got it because obviously it's an affordable price. So he's happy to gamble that, say, 100 quid. And he does it because he's a sneakerhead and he wants to open his chances up to be able to get the hype and the heat that he wants. So this is what his reason to do it. But like I said, he's a young guy and he's only just starting out. He also said to me, he goes, do you know a guy called Lucky Botter? And I said, yes, I do, funny enough.
Paid him a lot of money for that.
I go, why? He goes, well, I watch his videos and he's taught me everything I know. I'm like, amazing. Well, that's what he does his videos for. So I'll pass on the message. So that's one thing. And number two, spoke to an older guy, probably about a 30-year-old, roughly 25, 30-year-old. And he's a reseller and not obviously going to disclose anybody's names. And he said to me that he basically has his people where he resells to, which is like his kind of big number sort of thing, wherever he goes to. I think it was Asia. He's got his people in Asia. And then he says, after that, anything I've got left over, he goes, I'm just happy to flip at, you know, the retail price or maybe 20 quid over or whatever it is, because I don't want to come across as that guy. And then he also mentioned you. He goes, do you know Josh? I'm in his group. So,
oh, nice.
And then kind of it came from there sort of thing. So, yeah, that's my take on it now. Andy?
So for me, I guess one of the real things that sort of brought it home was walking into SneakerCon and seeing a load of the Sakai Waffles, the originals, all stacked up. The guy, as you walk through the door, he was right opposite the Crep Protect stand, and he had a massive stack. He had literally full size runs, and then they were lining them all up, and that pisses me off. Was that shoe particularly one that I desperately wanted? No, not really. So for me, there is a line, I think, between people taking the piss and people doing it for, you know, for the right reasons. Like, for instance, I went in for a raffle overnight, and I put the wrong email address in. I mistypoed the email on a raffle on a shoe that I've been desperate to get. Now, if I've gone in for various different raffles, so if it's one pair of shoes, I want one pair of shoes. Now, if I went in for 3 raffles and won 3 raffles, I'm going to have 2 pairs left over. So I can see how you want to increase the likelihood or the chances of you actually getting a shoe. I will normally, if I really want something, I'll go in for 2 or 3. I'm not going to be going in for like 10 different, whatever. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So what I'm trying to say is that initially, you know, the bottles can be put under this whole reselling umbrella, if you like, and that's just one of the questions that I'm going to be coming to in a bit, so I won't go into that too much now. But for me, I get why people are trying to adapt with what's happening in the market and increasing the likelihood of themselves to being able to cop. But for me, overstepping the line is when someone just creams the whole lot off and then has a full size run and then just ramps the price up. That's the difference for me as things stand.
I think 2 things to kind of touch on for what you both said is, so first of all, Jamie was talking about, you know, he was the person that was going into the shops and being able to find them on the shelves or maybe go into in-store. We were the same. Like me and Eddie, both of us, I still go into in-store, and I'll mention something in a minute this is what brought home that actually reselling is something that I do want to make accessible, and I'll explain why in a sec. But we were the same. We were going in, we were doing, I weren't doing campouts necessarily, but I was going and I was queuing up, and literally it got to a point, and you guys probably understand this, where you actually it starts becoming dangerous. Like it literally starts becoming dangerous, these in-stores.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to them anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And so
Yeah, quick one, sorry, in regards to that point, sorry, it's just, that's also a reason as to why so much of it has gone online and onto technology. You know, if there was still so much queues and campouts and stuff, bots wouldn't be such a big deal. Just a little mention there while we were talking about campouts and stuff.
Yeah,
especially
100%.
Yeah.
with COVID as well, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And I think,
But
you know
for
what?
namely for now as well, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
If it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be botting. That's the honest truth. I just had a lot of time on my hands over lockdown. But then secondly, on the point of Andy talking about the sneaker con guys, I think a lot of botters portray an image that is just not reality. You probably find that most of the people with full size runs are not botters. What they've actually done, which if I wanted to make reselling a full-time job, and this is really weird. I don't know how to put this, but you can categorize botting and reselling as two different things. But if I wanted to do reselling as a full-time job, what I would actually do is I would find the botters and say, I will buy all your pairs post-release, because the chances of me being able to, on very limited releases like the Sakai's, be able to get a full size run bot in, it's in the UK near enough impossible. There's only maybe a couple of people that be able to do it, and they did it by luck, and they found like a site that no one knew about. The people that have got them stacked up have usually bought them on the secondary market themselves. Most resellers buy them on the secondary market and then sell them on.
Yeah.
And I can get why that's a frustration. But two things. One is, me and Eddie recently went to London to see these guys called Loopers, and these are some young guys, generally from inner city places. And what they do is they go on scooters around the West End, go into all different shops, buying
But
shoes.
this
Go,
is quite new, though, within the last year, I'd say, these
that's right.
loopers.
And they'll
Yeah.
change their clothes and then go in again to try and get more shoes. And they'll go to Foot Patrol, straight to Foot Locker, try and get the Jordans, whatever. And
Yeah.
we stood for a good few hours talking to these guys. And the alternative to what they could be doing, if they wasn't doing that, I'll let them sell trainers all day long for double the money that people that want to buy them, because it was getting a lot of them out of a lot of shit. When I spoke to a few of them, they were like, "Do you know what? This is I'm selling this stuff instead of selling that stuff." And I was like, "Well, the people that want these shoes, like us, right? We're collectors, you know. Is it a necessary item? I mean, we could go down the talking of, is botting things like consoles, you know, like moral and things like that. But we'll stay on shoes because that's what we do. But I was like, if they got 100 pairs, fair play to them, because that's going to keep them on the straight and narrow, and they're doing something that's legal and they're having fun at the same time, I guess, while they're doing it. So, and then also most,
Josh, sorry, I want
yeah,
to just jump in there. It's interesting you said that, because I do have this conversation with people, and I look at it, especially that younger audience, that because those loopers, they're the young guys, aren't they? Generally,
yeah,
you find them.
most of them.
You know,
There was a
they're
couple of older guys that I spoke to that were that had come out of Her Majesty's Pleasure, and they can't find work, so
no,
they done that
and that's the
instead.
funny thing, because rewind, you know, I'm nearly 40. Rewind to when I was like 15 years old, 16 years old, and you know, I was doing things I shouldn't be doing. You know, the difference is they're just basically flipping shoes now instead of the other thing.
Exactly. They've got an entrepreneurial spirit, right? And the thing is most, and this is where I can't get to grips with, is most sneakerheads, the sneaker community is built upon buying, selling, trading. That's what we're known for, right? Like, if we get one shoe, we can sell it onto someone else who's that size, and then we'll be able to get the money to buy another. I just don't know if there's a limit of where we can say, well, if you do it above that, then it's not okay. But Eddie, is there anything that you want to say that I haven't mentioned on the first couple of points before we get to the questions?
yeah, there was well in regards to what you guys were saying. Yeah, first off, the stacks of trainers. I wish if it was if it was that easy. Genuinely, if that guy, whoever had the stack of the Sakai's, if that guy had botted them, the amount of money that he would have invested in regards to botting them alone, there's no way. Like, this isn't something that is you click go and it does it. It is, there's a lot more investment, especially if you want to be hitting them kind of numbers. I would be more inclined to say that someone like that has either got like a back door at like a small store or something like that, or like Josh was saying, is basically resells or buys on the secondary market himself. There's a lot of people that are like that. You would think that they were botting, but realistically, they're buying the ones and the two pairs off the botters themselves. You know. Yeah, there's one guy I know in London who's quite prolific, and his pictures always show hundreds of pairs, you know. But I also see that this guy is making £10 per pair kind of
Buys
thing.
it off of us a lot of the time.
Exactly. He's not the person that's getting it for retail and doing it. And it
Mm.
would look bad, and it does look bad if you don't know you know, the working out of it and stuff. It looks like the guy got it for 90 quid and he's selling them for a grand each, you know, but that's not the case when you see pictures like that. When it comes down to, like, you know, the sort of more, what would you say, like the ones in JD, your mids and stuff like that, where botters do actually cop quite a lot of them, but that is also because there's just a massive amount of them. The botters
Yeah,
themselves are then making the money. They're making the 15, 20, up to 50 quid, you know.
Mm.
The resellers that are at SneakerCon and stuff, not massively interested in bulk of them kind of thing. What else were we talking about? Yeah, I mean, in regards to like the looping, sorry, one quick one about that. It's been going on for quite a while with Supreme, I would say. Supreme has
okay,
the queue up in-store system, and it was all sorts of ways of signing up for it over the years. But more recently, it's been in regards to like SMS, like text. You sign up for it, and people have 4 or 5 phones doing it, you know, and then
yeah.
going getting changed and doing it. So it has been happening for quite a while, but fair play to him, like we've said, man. Like they're, yeah, that's it.
Amazing. You've got to respect their hustle. So I appreciate that, Eddie. So let's go back, Andy. Let's get on with the questions, okay? You're going to say a few questions who we've heard from within the community, right? So over to you, please.
Yeah, so I put out, and you may have seen on Jamie's stories and also the full frame kicks, and on my story as well, we said, you know, this is going to be as interactive as we can have it. We didn't want to necessarily do a live, but we wanted some questions to be able to ask our colleague Josh and our guest Eddie. And I had actually, there was one other person we were going to try and get on to this podcast who was CAF official Insta. He unfortunately couldn't make it, but I had a good chat with him and he put forward some of the questions as well. So some of the stuff we're going to be going through has come from our discussions or my discussions with him, and we've had some feedback from some other people as well. But I guess you kind of touched on this, Josh, and also Eddie as well. But with regards to what started you guys botting, it sounds like you were already, you know, what came first? You were already collectors, you were already sneaker enthusiasts. And I'm guessing, was it the inability to be able to cop? And what made you want to sort of make this a public, like a kind of a public thing, like doing it all on YouTube and stuff?
Yeah,
Want
so
to go first, Josh, or?
yeah, go for it. So mine was just that collector first. Couldn't get the pairs online. I think it was one of the easy releases I noticed on when they first introduced Splash. It might have been the Moon Rocks Triple Blacks. Can't remember. And then that's when I started looking into bots. I got scammed for a bot, and then I invested into an actual bot. So that was then. And then to make YouTube, in all honesty, the point of doing YouTube was actually to highlight that it wasn't a glamorous thing and that it was actually what I've always said, and that is it's a gamble. You know, like even today, I was on a Footlocker drop I was up at 6 a.m. I didn't stop till about 2 p.m. and something mucked up, and like I'd spent a lot of money on proxies. I got some stuff for my guys in the group, but not near. I could have just given them the money to buy the shoes in the end. So it was a gamble. But yeah, I think that the reason why I wanted to go public with the YouTube was because it's very heavily US dominated when it comes to YouTube and botting. It shows what you can do in the US, which when I bought US, it shows like loads of checkouts. But when it comes to the UK, me and Eddie are patting each other on the back for getting one checkout. So I wanted to show that on the channel, and I wanted to show that it was hard. It's not as easy as that. And actually, when you add up the investment, it's actually probably if you're a collector, you're probably better off just buying resale for shoes.
And why is it different then? Why is it easier? Why is it easier in the US than it is over here in the UK or Europe? If
Yeah,
it's Foot Locker, it's a global company, right?
yeah, I guess A, quantities of shoes, and then B, anti-bot measures are different on different sites. So
And
developers,
surely you've just got so many more different stores in America.
yeah, that's it. And
So
it's
it would be to do with mainly the security across each site, and
yeah,
I would say the EU is, well, EU and UK especially don't have as many retailers. So,
mm,
you know, if they beef up their security, then it's a lot harder for us. The US, they have so many retailers that don't have that higher security, so people are hitting so many, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. And yeah, that was the reason why I had to start the YouTube, was actually to show that it wasn't all glamorous. And sometimes I get shit for that from the botting community. They go, you're washed, you're rubbish at doing this. You've got all these resources, and then I get told you're showing too much. So, I mean, don't get me. I get more shit from the botting community than I do from the sneaker community. Honestly, I get more shit from botters than anyone else. So, yeah, it's I should never have done YouTube, but we'll crack on. Eddie,
And-
go on, Andy.
No, I wasn't saying. So it started with you copying personal pairs. Now, would it be that you try and get a few pairs to then be able to get a pair yourself, or I guess what I'm trying to say is it started off as copying personal, and then you've been pulled into, you suddenly thought, oh, the economics are quite good here, so I'm going to resell more, or is there sort of I guess, is there a limit to what you try and go in for?
I don't mind
No.
going for an answer on that one.
go for
But no, straight no from Josh on that. Myself, my priority whenever I'm going for trainers is actually my personal size. Like I would always, if it's something I'm interested in, I would always be going for my personal size first. Sometimes there's little things you can do to try and make it yourself, and this is for anybody can do it. If it's something stupidly hyped, off-white, something really loads of people want it, go for a size that isn't one of the most popular sizes. You'll have a higher chance of copying a pair. If you do cop a pair for retail, you sell them, pay a little extra to get your own size. That means that you're not paying the stupid resale straight away. There's little things like that you can do, but genuinely, if it's something I'm interested in, I'm going for it for my size. If I can't get it in my size, then I'm looking to pay towards getting it in my size. That is really how I started in regards to the whole sneaker botting thing. Really, it first started with Supreme. That's where my first botting or step into botting started. It was a very simple Chrome extension that would just sort of auto checkout. It's autofill. A lot of people have it. This was just particularly for this website alone. And Supreme is one store alone. You can't buy it from anywhere else. So it wasn't a case of, oh, this website or this shop, I can't get it from there anymore, so I'm going to try and get it from this other shop. Where trainers were kind of like that at that point. Offspring were quite easy to get stuff from up until quite recently, especially with the community side of things. But which is, from everyone's point of view, you can have your own judgment on that. But yeah, that's how I got into it, and that's basically what I do with it. I'm trying to get what I like as a sneaker collector, really. And luckily, since I've been getting into botting, I've been able to get stuff that from years ago I wouldn't have been able to get. Quite recently, I got the Air Max One London Underground, the Roundel ones. They're from like
Nice.
2013.
Yeah.
7-8 years ago they are, and it's something I couldn't get back then, but now I've made money off some trainers. I didn't have anything around that I was like, I kind of want that. I'm a big Air Max One fan, so there hasn't been that many sort of big Air Max Ones recently. And so yeah, I was like, what, I'm gonna buy something for resale that's old, and that's what I wanted. So yeah, most of the money I get is towards getting something that I'm after.
Fair play. We've got a big Air Max one coming up, though, haven't we?
The clots, is that
Yeah,
what we're
that's
talking about? Yeah. I'm
yeah.
excited for the clots. I would have preferred the silver ones myself. I like the silver clot Air Max ones.
Yeah,
But yeah, they're a nice reissue.
indeed. Great. Andy?
I don't know. I guess what's been most interesting to me, speaking to you, Josh, has been what actually goes into a drop with regards to botting it. So obviously, I don't want to spend ages on this because I'm sort of aware of time. But what would you say running through a typical drop? Because I know that you've got to choose which bot, you've got to sort of have your list, you've got to program it and proxies and stuff. Can you just quickly run through for people that aren't aware?
Yeah.
The whole legwork and the amount of time and money that goes into each drop.
Yeah, so you've obviously got the bot. In each bot, you need to set up your tasks. Your tasks are, just think about one person going for a shoe. So I'll have 1,000 people going when you've only got one. You've got to set those tasks up. And what you've got to know is, okay, so beforehand, you've got to do a tiny bit of research. It doesn't take that long anymore because you've got some tools. But, okay, where is most of the stock allocated? So if it's at Foot Locker, have they pulled stock just before the release? We can see that. or what size runs have got a healthy amount of stock. They're the ones we're going to go for. Then we've got to wait sometimes for an update from the bot developer himself because they've done a different update on the anti-bot. Then when we sent it up, like you said, we've obviously invested in the bot. A good bot nowadays, you're looking at anywhere between 2,000 all the way up to 20,000 per bot, but I'll be running multiple bots.
And that's on the resale market.
That's on a resale market. It's physically impossible to get a bot on the retail market near enough, even though I did hit a very big bot at the beginning of my journey, and that's what set me up. But that was pure fluke. And just like what everything else is really. But I will usually have around 3 or 4 bots running. If we take that into total, you've got Cyber, that's 5k, Ganesh, that's 3k. Then you got Polaris, that's 2k. So like already you've got about £10,000 of bots. You need to deploy servers and set up your servers because speed is the essence. So I need to be as fast as possible when I get through that footlocker queue, because you've probably experienced it manually. You get through and then you get that wheel of death or something. So the bot needs to be fast. Then
so what do you do? Are you on Virgin whatever, saying, "Oh, can I have your BT Ultimate"? How are you getting
So it depends on the site.
That's a good question.
So what I'm doing, in all honesty, is I'm going to third parties and I am hiring a server. So I'm using a dedicated server somewhere else, a supercomputer, and I'm going in for a remote desktop and I'm setting up my bots from my computer to that and using theirs.
Right.
Then doing the legwork, I need to find out, is that computer near the Footlocker's server? I want the computer that's next door, because that's going to be the fastest ping time.
Yeah.
So we do that research. We find out what servers there are. So when Footlocker changes their server, we have to change and adapt with it. Then we look at proxies. The problem with proxies, and a proxy is basically just individual IP addresses, where basically it shows as an individual person, because we've got to look like different people for each task. If I've got 1,000 tasks running, in total, I'll probably have about 10,000 tasks running. In other words, I've got 10,000 people trying to grab a pair on the website. Most of the time, that's what I'll do for Footlocker, not for every site, because I don't want to crash the thing. But then I've got to allocate IPs to them. That's not hard, but what is hard is to find IPs that Footlocker doesn't ban. And we won't know that it's banned. We'll just be stuck in queue the whole time. So throughout the drop, what I'm having to do is rotate proxies. I'm then having to create new proxies, put them in, just to make sure I'm not getting kind of shadow banned in the background. So, and then we just carry on running. And then what will happen is Footlocker has waves of when their queues up and down. So what we'll do is we'll check checkout logs of bots. Once there's been 2 minutes of that checkout log, I'll stop tasks. I'll go to the other bot, see what's going on. So and then we restart it when the queue goes back up. So
and this is all manual stuff while it's going on.
This is all manual. Yeah, this is all manual. Apart from the off-white drop, which is totally different. And a proxy company changed the game for off-white for us last drop on the Jordan 5s. And look, honestly, you're going to be pissed off at this, but if you're a manual user, Off-White has set up that website so manual users can't hit. But anyway, that now makes it easy for us.
Let's talk about that in a minute, because tell the viewers why, because we know why you told us, and it's very interesting that. But do you want to finish off on that last point?
Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. But Footlocker drop, if we look at today, it finished at about 2:00. I ended up with, I think I should have had 40 pairs, but the people I'm running for, because most of the time I'm not just running for myself, and the same with Eddie, we've got a bunch of people in our group, the Old Boys Botting Club, and we run for them free of charge as part of their membership, and to get them personal pairs or even to get them pairs to resell. I'm not going to lie. But it's not just us getting the pairs, it's mainly for them because they're paying their membership and that's what they pay for. So we're running for them. And I should have got 30, but a load of them didn't approve their freaking 3DS transactions because they weren't at their phone sales at work. But oh well, that's what happened. But all in all, like you're looking at sometimes hundreds, sometimes not that much. They're like £1 per drop. But there are some drops, don't get me wrong, where it's literally 5 seconds. I've already got quick tasks made. I just press something and it remembers from the last setup and it will just go. Do you know what I mean? So not all drops are like that. Not all drops, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are more intricate.
It's fair to say the programming side of it, when you're working out you've got to take what's coming, you're programming what you want compared to what's being dropped. So that's all legwork beforehand.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, us as bot users, it's very simple for us to do. It's time, it's money, but it's the developers that have done everything in the background. We're just seeing it on a nice fancy user interface that we just drop and drag shit in. But we got to be at the computer for hours in order to.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely. There's a few points I wanted to mention there quickly in regards to your proxies getting banned. It's a reason why you have to be at your computer the whole time. Is the proxies hitting the website on whatever delay you set on your bot, so every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, whatever. Eventually, if it keeps hitting a website, it's just going to get banned because it's hitting it so many times.
Yeah, it's just
So that's
refreshing it. It's like you manually
exactly.
refreshing a website and then you get 404 error or whatever. It's that.
So this is a reason why you have to be at your computer for that. Another thing, websites like to change up the link halfway through a drop and stuff like that, or just before it. Another reason you have to be at your computer. So again, it isn't a click OK and go. Sometimes, like Josh says, it is, especially with the off-white one, if we want to go on to that. But there's a lot of time invested into it. There really is. Even just getting to grips with the software, So yeah.
And Eddie, that's really good, because one of the next questions we have, and we'll get back to the off-white in a minute, what advice would you give to those considering botting? Budgets, pitfalls, etc.
My first thing would be to join a group. Get yourself into a group. I mean, if you guys seem like great contenders for for our group, especially, if that makes sense. So if the
Over
listeners
30.
are into that,
You're
Over
old.
30.
Yeah, you're old.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
we're old enough. Yeah.
but we're people that have decided. I mean, I've decided a long time ago I had to get involved in this stuff, and I would say the best thing to do is get involved in a cook group. That's your first step into it. Through there, you can then start getting a bot. If you are interested in doing it, if you're not interested, even these cook groups alone give you a lot of information on how to do stuff manually. They even have their own sort of tools. OBBC, we have our own tools, the Lionel Richie bot. That's just a simple sort of Chrome extension, back to sort of the stuff that I started with, which is an autofill that does it all yourself. But my advice, if you are interested and you want to collect trainers for, a realistic number rather than having to pay over the odds each time, it would be get into a cook group, because these are the people that are copying,
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my only advice would be, look, think of how much you think it's going to cost and double it to begin with.
More than that, even more than that. To
Yeah.
get successful at it, it's a lot of trial and error. And what works for you one week might not work the next week. It really is a lot of money invested in it. So keep that in mind,
Yeah,
definitely.
And if you're doing it just for personal pairs, you're better off buying resale, honestly. And that's why most botters become resellers, because it becomes clear, for it to make financial sense, you do need to be a reseller as well at the same time. Most
Very
of the
much
time.
so.
Most
Very
of the
much
time.
so, yeah. I
Thanks,
have to
guys.
agree with that, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll throw this one out here now. And we've kind of touched on it a bit, but can a botter be a sneakerhead?
I mean, define sneakerhead. That'd be my answer, because
Yeah.
what
Okay,
is a
I'm going to look at
sneakerhead?
it from I'm going to take it from sneakerhead to can a botter be a sneaker collector then, which I know you've touched on, which both of you have said that's kind of where it started with the frustrations.
I'm a hoarder. You should see my room. I'm a sneaker hoarder.
I know we've seen some of the stuff that you've got, and I know that a lot of the stuff that you've got there, you've got for personal pairs.
Personal, yeah.
I can see a lot of the stuff that you've got as well, though. You don't bot. So. But I mean, we can say it the same way. I definitely would consider myself a sneaker collector. I was going into Offspring as a kid, getting that lime green bag with the red string. Back in the day, that was the stuff I was getting. I remember my first trainers were Air Tempos with a big air on the side of it. I've been a collector for a long time, and I think it's
I can
something we
tell the
touched
fact
on.
that you just mentioned that's true, definitely. So yes.
But it's something that we touched on recently in a podcast, I believe, and it was, you have to almost get with the times of things. I mean, I made the sort of description of, if I was fishing in a pond and then there was a guy next to me that had loads of fish and he had a big massive fishing pole that was like top of the range stuff, and I came with a twig with a string on it and I didn't have anything. I mean, I would come back the next day and be asking him, where'd you get the rod from? I want to get involved in it. And
Yeah, totally.
unfortunately it is, let's say, under the it isn't looked good upon, let's put it that way, say. But the community that is behind it, if you are involved in it, is an amazing community. There's been the sneaker botting community has raised like thousands and thousands of pounds for charity. At the moment, we're running a blind auction for a lifetime key in Old Boys. And this is all going towards one person's sort of project in regards to making money for charity. So it isn't, we're not all dickheads, like we are. We're
Yeah.
I am.
genuine people that, well, maybe you, Josh, but I would say we are people that have just sort of realized this is how you get trainers now.
So,
This is it,
so it's almost like you're shamed into silence because I was going to say, should botting and reselling be under the same umbrella? Because to a lot of people, obviously, with my initial comments when I said about the whole full size run, etc., I guess one might just immediately think, oh, it all comes under the same umbrella, and once you go into it, do you think that's unfair?
No, I don't. I think it needs to. It's always going to come together. But I also truly believe that that's part of the sneaker culture because we are dealing with stuff that's unattainable. Like if there weren't no botters, you would still have a lot of resellers, and if there was no resell, you wouldn't have botters. But and if there wasn't resell, would you really have some collectors? Some collectors collect on the scarcity of the product and on the rarity of the product. A lot of the time, they don't love the shoe. Like I'd call myself a sneaker collector because I bought things like the Asics and I value them way over anything of the off-white stuff that come. But they're odd shoes, but there's a heritage behind it I love. And but it's I think you have to put them together because with a botter you're gonna most of the time or near enough all the time get a reseller. And I think it's hard to try and separate it. I think my biggest comment would be get over the fact there's a reseller because there's always going to be, and I don't personally think there's a problem with it. That's all. But that's just me, I guess. That's a matter of opinion. But I think you're always going to get a reseller with a bot most of the time.
I think there's one thing as well. Sorry, just jump in. That there is a difference in regards to, let's say, bulk reseller. I would say someone who resells on bulk, there's somebody that is buying resale prices or it's getting backdoored, unless they're really, really bang on their botting. Like, I mean, there's people in the sneaker community, in the, sneaker botting community that are big hitters, they do really hit thousands, but they're they're few and far between. I would say if you see bulk resellers, they they may not be botters, but
No,
a lot
yeah.
of people they're bot. That's it. There is a community there, and like Josh said, kind of thing. It is something that people just have to either you know be happy to pay the resale if it's something that they want, or get involved with doing what they need to not do it. Whether
What
that's
was sorry?
sorry, just gonna finish
No,
with
go
whether
on. There
that's
was a bit of a lag. My bad.
I was just going to say whether that's hustling the person in the shop so you're getting the back door, or whether that's joining a group so you can start botting, or whatever it is that you need to do. It's your decision to do that, and botting is something that has come about, and it's something that I decided to get involved in.
And
No,
not
fair
only
enough.
that, but the people that I because I get a lot of comments and I get a lot of shall we say fan mail of the opposite, a lot of hate mail. But the same people are wearing Sean Witherspoon shoes, who is a reseller, and not only that, but they're taking a picture with him because they went to LA and visited the Round Two store. Like, it's a very weird. I don't. It's a very weird concept
It's a
to me.
fine line at the moment, isn't it? A very fine line.
There
I
is.
wonder,
I don't get it. Yeah.
I
Go on,
wonder if
Andy.
it's because um, you know, even a store is reselling products from Nike, right? And it's a legitimate retailer. And I wonder if Sean Witherspoon and Round Two, and it's created. It all seems above board. It all seems in the plain light of day. Whereas I wonder if there's an element of botting that might seem a little bit not underworldy, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, but how could we do it in the open? Is the
Uh,
is the
uh,
yeah? But I get that. No, I get that. I totally get that.
because
Yeah,
it's the World Wide Web, and I guess it's probably because
yeah.
people might not necessarily understand it. I mean, I don't understand it, and I understand it a lot more now. But
I'd say there's also there's a lot of negative connotation that's been put towards botting. Like, I mean, I mentioned Offspring earlier on, but there's a lot of negative put towards it. I mean, there's making your own community and stuff, but also take it as a challenge. Almost every website in the world, if there's something interested in it, it's going to get hit by people with bots. You know, Ticketmaster for people, like people used to bot tickets and stuff all the time. So
Yeah, of
it's something
course.
where the websites also need to step up to stop botting from happening. If they're going to have such a negative and they don't believe it's something that should be happening, etc., they need to do something properly
Mm.
to stop it. And I understand, you know, Offspring have done something quite good, but it it does it does take a lot of normal people out of it. The raffles that they do on their Instagram last like 20 seconds, and
Yeah,
not a
I
lot of
can't do that.
people. Yeah, like who's got time to sit there and watch it all day long? Because you know we've got time to set up bots and it may take hours, but at least we can sit there and know when it's going to happen. They want
Yeah.
you to sit there forever and sit, you know, I mean that's not the right way to go about it, I
I
don't
just
believe.
don't get involved in it. They've got so many big followers. They've got
Yeah,
such an increase in followers and the speed that people can. And
crazy.
Massively.
I moved to an Android phone, and it's just the
Just to let you guys
alerts,
know,
the rubbish. It's I just
we've
don't.
got we've got bots that do that, and they detect the keywords and they do it for us
Yeah,
automatically.
that's
So
the thing.
we're
And
able
we
to bot
there's
that.
Yeah.
already bots that are coming
Mm,
over that, you know, and
yeah.
quite
Amazing.
easily, really quite easily. There was one where they were like, "Oh, we're going to put the keyword into, we're going to edit it into the description of a previous post,
Yes,
so
they've
that
done
they,
that a few times. Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the bots have now
Yeah,
they're monitoring any
scrapes it.
Wow.
changes. So, you
Wow.
know, it's something that there will always be attacks on websites. There will
Yeah.
always be, you know, so it's something that people need to realize and just deal with it, you
And that
know.
no, that's totally, and that actually brings us on to the next few questions, Anton, if you don't mind me
Yeah,
going through them.
yeah.
There's about two or three here, which kind of all kinds of come under that same remit. How do botters stay ahead of retailers? Could retailers do more to stop botting? And then could botting become illegal? Botting versus scalping?
So I think there's two things on that. One, if a human can do it, a bot will always be able to do it better. Like that's
Yeah,
the long and short of it. So if the I don't know, the retailers want to try and find something that a human can't do, then yeah, that'll happen. But these
So
developers,
we call it a cat and mouse game quite a lot. You know,
yeah,
it's a case of the botters will find a back door on the website to get into it, and then the security of the website will block that up. All right, well then it's the botter's time to find another way into it, you know,
mm,
and
yeah.
that's how it's gone on forever and ever and ever. And we've seen like massive changes on websites, and the botters sort it out.
straight away.
You see it happening mid drop. It's actually that they'll put an update for a bot while something's dropping, you know.
Yeah.
So these people are on the ball.
And the thing is, these people that are developers, most of them don't do this full time, and there are a few out there that work in things like cybersecurity, and they work at high levels, especially like the hidden society that people know about this guy. They work high levels of white hat hackers. Like they'll never beat them. Like really, unless they hire these sort of people, which they don't. They generally get third party software to do their stuff. But can retailers beat a bot? Yeah, they can. There are retailers that have beaten bots. Sorry, end right now when they drop first come first serve on their website. There is no bot that's hitting it. There might be a couple of extensions like an autofill, but no bot. Soulbox for a while beat off bots. Zalando has got one of the most sophisticated anti-bot team, but they never drop in the UK, so it's pointless to them. Raffles will always hit. So there are a couple of sites that are doing well against bots. There are, and even Offspring at this moment in time, the way they're dropping on their website, it's too quick for us to be quick on the ball with it. So a lot of manual users do get it, but it's only a case of we'll start getting monitors that ping us, and that will just start the task automatically. We've already got that for things like Mesh. When Mesh drops, I set a monitoring task where it just waits for a change for in stock. I can be away from my computer. When it comes in stock, it will ping and the bot will check out for me. The bot will give me a call on my phone to tell me it's checked out. Like,
And just for people that don't know, sorry, what's mesh?
oh yeah, sorry. So Mesh is Foot Patrol, Size, JD, Hip Store. Those four websites together.
Basically, they're all owned by the same company,
Then
so they
Yeah.
put the same security onto each of the
Yeah.
websites.
So I think, can they stop bots? If a human can do it, a bot will always be able to do it. And then secondly, will it become illegal? I can't see it happening. The reason being is because it's, ticket touting and tickets was a different thing. That's not really classed as a sense as a luxury. And the way that it was happening, it was that it needed something needed to stop. Whereas with shoes, I don't know. I don't think it will take a long time, but then we'll always find a way around it. If you think that ticket botting has stopped, you're probably living in not the real world.
It
Living in
hasn't.
fantasy
It
world.
hasn't.
Yeah, that's
It
it.
hasn't.
So,
Let's just
So
say it like.
there's just no events that you can get tickets for at the moment because of
I
COVID.
don't-
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
that's how they stop it. So yeah, stop
Yeah,
us
put a
wearing, chop
pandemic on.
everyone's, put a pandemic on and chop everyone's feet off, and then we'll stop botting shoes.
But I guess there comes a point where if you look at the government add VAT onto purchases, and it's a way of the government recuperating money, and the government and all governments have thrown a hell of a lot of money at COVID with regards to furlough and stimulus and just to keep the economy going. It's not inconceivable to think that they're going to be looking at lots of different ways to try and claw back some funds. And if they're seeing the VAT on a £90 pair of dunks, and then suddenly they're changing hands for another £300 or £400, I don't quite know how they would do it, but believe you me, I'm sure the government would be looking at that going, can we have a bit of that money?
Yeah, I mean, just to like be very clear, I declare everything that I earn. I'm above board on that, so I put it through a limited business. And a lot
Because you're
of
doing so well on it, mate. That's why he's got to declare.
I wish, mate.
He's hitting that threshold, Eddie.
No, I just knew as soon as I started YouTube, someone will find an issue with what I'm doing. So I thought, right, I'm going to make sure it's all above board. You can't.
No, very sensible.
Yeah,
Very sensible.
I think if more botters would do that and more resellers would do that, it would probably help them down the line in that regard, like what Andy was saying. Because I totally agree. It's either that or it's only going to take one big company to come in and do something in that botting realms, make it a more legitimized, and then it will kind of but look, reselling's been going on for years. It's not just shoes, it's all collectibles, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
It's been years and years, stamps, coins, whatever it is. So I
Totally.
think, but yeah, I think once the government gets hold of it, they may look at it more, but I think they would probably prefer to tax it than do anything else.
Yeah.
And I guess you summed it up is to recap on what Jamie just asked, is it's cat and mouse with regard to can they do more, should they do more. I guess it's almost like a poacher gamekeeper type situation. That's what people see it as, and again, that could potentially be why it's more frowned upon compared to round two.
Yeah, absolutely. But the websites are doing stuff. The websites are changing constantly. There's some bots that don't work on certain websites anymore. So when they're like, oh, the websites are doing nothing, actually, Jay,
they do a lot. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff.
It's going to cost them a lot of money, and unfortunately,
it's like we were saying, where developers are putting out updates for stuff mid-drop. It isn't as if they aren't trying to stop it. But unfortunately,
it's the cat and mouse.
This is it.
Okay, amazing. This has been amazing. Really, really good. Andy, I think we've got about 3 kind of more questions left.
Yeah.
Which come under the same thing. Do you want to fire them off?
Yeah, these were kind of whereas I guess the first few bits that we were talking about was trying to build a picture around you guys and a picture around botting itself. These are sort of more personal ones from the community. So for instance, does botting cause harm, especially for non-profit sneakerheads? So I guess it's if you're a sneaker fan and you want to cop, is botting just ruining your chances of being able to do that?
Yes, but it's not harm. But yeah, but having a desirable item is stopping that. If we didn't bot, we'd be on the website doing it manually anyway. So
yeah, but hang on, sorry to jump in. It's like me. I'm a normal sneakerhead. I'm not crying at night because of you guys.
Yeah, this is it. It's
yeah, obviously it's annoying,
yeah.
but I always take it back down to it's a shoe. There's going to be another 20 dropping in the next 5 days.
Yeah, there's a lot dropping at the moment. Yeah,
loads.
I would say I wouldn't say it causes harm, especially not to the sneakers in general, or like the popularity of sneakers or anything. If anything, I would say it's adding to the popularity of sneakers. If it's becoming so hard to get something, people want it more. Simple as that. Yeah. Exactly.
It is being sold out. Sometimes we've seen it so many times where we've botted it. And look at the mid craze. A lot of that was because we started botting mids because highs weren't dropping, and because they were selling out, it created a false sense of hype on a lot of stuff. Like that's what resellers do. But not only that, if you want to, I've just remembered, if you want to stop bots, tell your retailers and tell your manufacturers to put out enough stock for demand. They love us.
This is the thing. Yeah.
We've had, and I've said it before, I've had manufacturers contact me and say, will you bot this release for us? Not big manufacturers, but smaller guys, and said, because we want to create some hype, will you bot it? So, and put it wherever, and tell your botting friends to bot it. So tell the manufacturers to make enough and you'll be all
Listen,
right.
the manufacturers and the websites know what's happening. They know what they're doing, and this is it. You know, if the finger is pointed at us because we're, let's say, successful in copying, you know, to anyone, but you would be very, very surprised at how many times just people that are into bots would cop manually simply from just being fast fingers and just kind of being on the ball with it. Like where Josh was saying with End, I just thought I'd bring this up again because it's a little tip for anyone listening, because this is something that anyone can do, is Google Pay and Apple Pay are the fastest way of paying for anything on End especially. But that's something, you know, that's beating bots. So it isn't a case of bots are always winning. It is, you know, bots are there and they are winning most of the time, but you do always have a chance at manual as well. And that's how getting into a group, that's how you learn them little tips and tricks like that, that you can cop manually. And it's just little things like that you need to learn.
And not all botters hit. Not all botters hit every release. Maybe only 25% of the botters that go for the release will actually hit, interestingly, as well.
That's
Brilliant.
That's time and money that they've put in, and they end up empty-handed.
It's the gamble that we take, I guess. You know.
Just because you mentioned mids, and I know there's a lot of haters of mids out there, and I actually don't mind Jordan 1 mids. But of the top selling shoes in January, as measured by NPD, and this is wholesale in the US, there were 2 separate entries for Jordan 1 mids in the top 10 shoes for January. There was the Jordan 1 mid and the Jordan 1 mid SE as well. Is that
like of each like specific colorway or like the whole?
No, just the silhouette.
Just the silhouette. Well, that's enough in general to be the 2 in the top 10. That's insane.
And this is done on total revenue. So if you're going up against something like a Jordan 5 or Jordan 6, that's you know, so like the Air Force 1 Low was number 1, Air Max 270 was number 2, Jordan 13 was number 3, and then there was Jordan 1 mid at number 4. There were no Adidas. There was NMD got knocked out to number 11.
I'm surprised people are still buying NMDs.
I know, but I've kind of digressed a little bit. Air Max 90 was number 10, by the way, for any Air Max 90 fans. But yeah, so
amazing. Andy, I want to wrap this up because obviously we're approaching that time, guys. First of all, Andy, before I wrap it up, have you got any last things that you want to talk about or ask?
I don't really. I just hope that people that are watching this, you know, this, I'm really interested in the mechanics behind it. It's something that's not going to go away. It's something that I think if you understand it a bit more, that's one thing. There are always going to be lots of different people doing it, and they're going to have their own different reasons as to why you're doing it. And I think you guys have both done a great job today at explaining. It was almost like a want to be able to cop stuff that kind of got you into it, and you've actually invested additional money on top so that you can actually get hold of some of the shoes. So no, I just thank you for coming on. Thank you for allowing us to be able to broach this subject, because I say within the community, from our perspective, which obviously you guys are in the community as well, because you're sneaker collectors and sneaker fans.
That's very controversial, saying we're in the community there. Oscar will not agree.
I thought we were exiled, to be honest.
Probably now.
What is a sneakerhead?
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, this is what we try and do with these round tables, is I think whether you can have a discussion about things, and you might have a difference of opinion, but it's about getting these discussion topics out there and allowing people to hear a side of something that they maybe not have wanted to hear or been able to hear in the past. And no, I thank you guys for allowing us to do that.
And I will completely second what Andy said. I couldn't agree more. Really appreciate both of you coming on. Well, I know Josh is obviously always with us, but Andy, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving our viewers an insightful truth behind it, you know.
Andy, thanks,
I've got one.
I meant Eddie, sorry.
So the
Go on.
suggestion that I've got for when COVID allows and it all gets done, why don't we say us four, Leon, get together in the studio on a Foot Locker drop? You have to be here early, but me and Eddie will deploy servers on a laptop and we'll take you through a whole drop for a day.
I think that would be great, and it'd be great to show people out there who aren't watching your videos.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say. That's what I want to say to the viewers. Look, you don't have to, but before you just talk, just watch Josh's videos, because I started to, and I learned a lot, to be honest with you. You know, it's interesting. So, look, I think we're going to wrap this up, because I know we're coming up to time. I know Josh has got to jump onto another podcast. He's a machine, this guy. Eddie, thank you very, very much for your time. Just before I go, Josh, give our audience just a quick 30 seconds why not to manually go for Off-White.
So very, very quickly, in the way that they release, first and foremost, they region lock. They ask you to do a text message service. By the time you get that text message, they would have already put up the wall and already put up the barrier. Our bots bypass that text message. And not only that, our proxies can detect what region we can check out on. In other words, if you are not a bot, you cannot physically, and it's been proven, you cannot physically check out as a manual user. So Off-White, if you're watching, sort your shit website out if you don't want bots to hear.
Oh man, come on.
And viewers, there you go. And on that note, Eddie, thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
To all our viewers, as always, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and comment. It helps the channel out massively. We will be back again with another roundtable discussion next week. I think we may even have a part 2 to this one. I can see it, you know, so let's see where we go. Love it. Anyway, on that note, everyone, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you again with another episode of Full Frame Kicks Roundtable.
Thank you.
Peace.